listening or?
Sorry. We're having a conversation about the Danielson Evaluation Framework student growth model. So the student growth model piece was 100% negotiated. It went through a formal process.
Excuse me, you might
All
want
right,
to say date,
I'll be right
time,
there.
and all that
I gotta
stuff.
go.
Okay, teaching, thank you. Teaching and learning.
You got a problem?
Yeah.
Teaching and Learning Committee, March 8th, 2016. All members present, guest Larry Canning. Deb Stearns had to step out. So the student growth model went through a formal negotiation process. We had 50% JFA, 50% administration. We had 180 days to negotiate that model. So everything that was developed in conjunction with them. Most of that is following the state law. We did the minimum requirements of state law. And there's some components in there that we do have the opportunity to make adjustments. So that's one of the things we're working on right now is a survey to the staff to get feedback on those things that we do have control over. For example, how many days of students' absence what's the cutoff point? After so many days, that data point's thrown out. We negotiated 10. We want to hear from the staff, is 10 appropriate, not appropriate, too high, too low?
Yeah.
That's something that we can change. The number of preps that are involved in the growth model, how many data points are in the growth model, all those variables like that,
I don't even
we can make some
think,
change.
and excuse me for interrupting you,
No problem.
I don't even think that they're talking so much about the growth model as the process of actually getting their evaluation going with what it takes with all the paperwork that's involved. And I'm hearing weekends, I'm hearing, and I don't know, Corey.
Sure.
And I know you work very hard, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I know about it. I'm just listening to feedback, and I've listened to you, obviously, for many years on it. And I've tried to, now with this new information, it's just confusing to me that if they had input in what why are we at this point with Danielson as far as making them so upset? I don't get it. I don't get it.
Because people don't want to be evaluated, and people are used to being perfect, and this model isn't geared that way.
Right.
I mean, I evaluate people too. Nobody wants to be evaluated. Nobody wants to be told you need to change something. That's human nature.
Well, I think people like to hear feedback, on ways maybe they can change some different things to make what they're doing a little bit more productive or a little bit more better for, But here's where I'm at, and Evelyn, I think I touched base on this a little bit with you the other day when I dropped yours off. If it was 20% and under, okay, I would say don't even bother. Let's not waste our time.
20% under
I'm sorry.
what?
20% of people upset with the process. I would say that's your typical 20% of negativity in any workplace. Okay. But it just seems to me that number is, and I think I calculated at some point into the 90s, okay, with people disgruntled with the process, and not just with Danielson too, with some other issues, okay. But I'm just, and
So we're talking 90% of the entire staff, or 90% of those that responded?
90. Well, obviously that
responses.
responded to
Okay.
the surveys, of course.
Which is
Which I don't even know.
uncontrolled.
That's
And I don't even know how many people responded to the survey.
okay, right.
I don't know that figure,
And
so.
neither do we.
Well, I'm just telling you.
It needs to maybe be revisited or something we need to have discussion about, and I don't know what you get back, and you have your own committee on that, correct?
We do.
Are they seeking feedback? Is feedback brought to them about, are you hearing the same thing?
And this
in
is the
that
interesting
group?
thing, because we have a district evaluation committee, one representative from each building, who are there to field questions, concerns.
Yeah.
Anytime that a teacher or an administrator has an issue, they're supposed to go to their JFA rep. Well, if they're not going to their JFA rep, there's nothing I can do about that.
Well,
That's the
some
avenue,
other
and they bring
issues-
it to our committee, and we have a discussion.
Well, they don't feel comfortable coming. I'm just going to tell you that's what I'm reading. What,
That's
Evelyn?
their problem.
Evelyn, I know that.
Well, come on, Larry.
Listen.
In your organization,
I don't want to argue.
in your organization, but we have to argue
No.
because I was totally left out of the planning of the whole thing,
We
and
don't
I'm
have to
ticked. totally ticked. 3 people on this
Or
board.
president.
No, you and Kim were deep in this as much as Debbie, and I've already been around with Debbie.
Yeah, but that,
4 of us were totally left out of the process.
I agree.
Maybe things would have been different if we all got to talk about
was
it.
her. That was
Now we're left with this cluster
you
to do
chose
what?
her, and that was her.
No, you're in it. Kim's in it.
Absolutely, I'm in it. I was
Absolutely,
at
you're
that
in it.
personnel meeting.
Absolutely.
You're darn right
And I want to know what gives a committee the right to do what you guys did.
Ask her. She
I did ask her.
planned out
I did ask
what
her.
was her answer? What did she say?
She said now she's going to throw it all out. It doesn't mean anything. It's uncontrolled. Really? Is that what we're going to do?
Throw it out.
All the results. They don't mean anything.
No,
All
we
right,
can't do that.
And
that
we're left
survey
holding the
needs
bag.
to be
We can't do that.
We have to have discussion on that.
Where,
on
Kim?
another-
Where do you want us to have this
We have to,
discussion?
well, I've asked Debbie, I can show you countless times I've asked her to set up a meeting about it.
Me too.
10 times.
You think we weren't
15
going to
times.
protect ourselves? We knew
I have
she rushed into
repeatedly
it.
asked her to call a full board meeting on this.
And I got the
she is
documentation to
not.
prove it.
Then show it to me.
I will show it to you right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I just want to caution you. There's some things in here with your name from her that I don't think I want to right now, but they're not very
I'll
pleasant.
just give you the
Okay.
dates of the times I asked for meeting. Regardless, we can discuss that after. We have another meeting at 7 o'clock, so I want
But
to.
If I may.
I want to say one other thing.
Sure.
Before you get into all what everybody says, did you listen? Kim and I sat through 4 hours of meetings about Danielson. Did you listen to or look at the stuff Corey has on our website? I think you owe her that much.
Wait a minute. What are you talking about here? I just got done telling you I came on, 3 years ago. You guys were already into the process. I tried to catch myself up as best I
No, you
can.
didn't listen
You
to
were
what
here
I
for the
said.
last presentation, the student growth
The
model.
student growth model,
Yes.
yes. I was here for a presentation on that.
The
You
last
weren't
meeting,
here.
you were not here.
But the 2 meetings before that,
Okay.
there was other 2 hours apiece.
I tried
Did
to
you
make
look
what
at
I
that?
can,
But it's
okay?
online. Did you read that?
No,
Did
I
you
did
look
not.
at it? Well, I
I
think
did
you
not.
owe.
Oh, sure I know.
Everybody
Absolutely. Evelyn,
But you
I don't
took the
wanna
time to
make
read
this-
2,000 pages of
Oh, I'm
grapes.
not done. I'm not done.
And half of, I can tell you that several of the board members I talked to aren't even going to bother, including myself.
Okay. Well, I think we can't turn a blind eye to knowing that there's a morale problem in our district.
Well, we don't even, well, we
I
can
mean,
have a whole
really.
argument about that because we don't even know that because it was an uncontrolled survey.
Okay.
I think if I may, we have systems in place to elicit feedback about the evaluation process. We've made some significant changes addressing the amount of time it's taking. We've cut that down through some of the feedback from the staff. The questionnaires that we went over used to be 8, now it's 4, to really target what it is that we're looking for. We're always open to suggestions, but if the teachers are not going to fill out our surveys, or they're not going to go to their JFA reps, or they're not.
We have a disconnect problem there, Corey, because they don't feel comfortable coming to top administration. That's
No, I'm
But that's not their
That's not what I'm
JFA
saying.
rep. That's them. That's their counterpart.
We have a rep in each building that if I don't
course.
feel comfortable, I can go to my JFA rep and say, look, this is what's happening to me in the evaluation process. It's up to that JFA rep then to come to our district meeting and share out those concerns. That's the only way we're going to make systems change is if they go through that avenue. I'm not asking them to go and talk to their observer. You're right. Some people don't feel comfortable. That's why we put these systems in place.
Right.
That's why we have safeguards built in. There is no district in the state of Illinois, I guarantee it, that has the safeguards that we have to protect teachers in this process. We're not out to get people. I'll give you a perfect example. We have an evaluation that's coming up on a needs improvement. We want to make sure that the evidence is there. In the event that that teacher got released and the evidence wasn't there to back it up, that would put us in a bad situation. So we're not even going to wait for the teacher to write a rebuttal. It's going through the district evaluation committee to make sure that the evidence is there to support that rating. There is nobody that's doing this. We negotiated this with the union. Again, we want to help teachers improve. Bottom line, we're not trying to make
Right.
this difficult.
I know.
We're
Why
not.
would you make it difficult on our staff?
It
I don't.
seems,
That's
it
what I don't
seems
understand
overwhelming.
either.
Is what I.
Any-
yeah,
Why
right.
so
it's
many
an overwhelming
outcries?
task for them to do. There's a lot of complaints about all the extra work.
But look
and,
at what
and a
it
lot
came
of it
from,
seems like it's taking away from their time to prepare to teach the
And-
students.
absolutely.
And a lot
it's-
of it is the testing, the pre, the post.
That is the law. I cannot change that.
And that is not something that can be changed. And all this, how you presented it to us, this was laid out in that same way to all the teachers?
Yes.
Or was it given to certain people to then
It was
give a presentation to the teachers?
We rolled it out in the spring prior to the starting of the school year. We had a building meeting. The district evaluation representative and myself presented the student growth model to the entire. Now, if the staff chose to be there or not,
student growth model, though,
we presented the changes to Danielson, and then we presented the growth model and we had a meeting at each building. Now, if the teacher chose not to attend, I can't do anything about that. We also set up trainings in the summer before the school year started, during the school year, how to help the teacher go through this data piece. And again, either the teacher chose to attend or not chose to attend. I can't control that. Our job is to provide the opportunity for the PD to make sure that teachers feel comfortable and know the process. I'm not going to force people to go. That's not how we operate. And we make sure we had stuff during the day, we had stuff after school, so that we could provide as many opportunities.
Recall, I know you don't have the figures just off the top of your head. Are you getting a lot of participation in those?
It depends. It depends. And what I'll do is I will give you all the trainings and the teachers that attended, all of those, so you can see.
I would like to see that. Yes.
Is there a correlation between the teachers attending and the teachers answering the survey? I don't know if they put their names on it. I don't know. But I would certainly
and the software, it sounds like it's something that could maybe ease the pain of this process a bit.
We are certainly
looking. I don't want to
looking.
skip ahead on your agenda,
Okay.
but I know it's on there.
Yes.
So
The goal is, again, to make it more efficient, to streamline it, to cut down the paperwork, so that we can have the conversations, which is what everybody really wants to get at. So we'll talk about that when we get down to the software piece.
Yeah. So if we could just leave this maybe open for next time.
Sure.
For discussion after we talk about this and
Sure.
we hammer out some other things, then we can come back and maybe revisit.
Sure. And again, the PowerPoints are on the board page where the committee notes are. Comb through. If there's other things you want me to revisit, if there's other information you want me to bring forward for the next meeting, just let me know.
Okay. But
Okay.
you'll send those.
I'd like a brief description of peer evaluation, because I think that's where all this complaining comes from.
Well,
Peer evaluation is, I evaluate you, you evaluate me, we go for coffee. I'll tell you, you're good, you
Oh.
tell me I'm good, and we're out of here.
Well, that's why you.
And that's what it came from. Exactly.
But
So to
it's
go
not
from
that way
A to Z, no wonder.
I don't think they're
human
saying
nature
throw
is their upset.
Danielson away. I haven't heard one teacher say that. But they're just saying that the process is so cumbersome, so involved.
Danielson
so,
is a process.
Yeah.
Sure. And like anything,
But here,
anything
can
that's
I ask you this?
Sure.
Because I get this too, okay? Well, look at the other districts, and they're not doing all that we're doing. Why are we at this level? Okay, can I ask that question?
Well, again, I don't know the intricate details of what everybody is doing.
Yeah.
I know some districts have
And
not.
I don't either.
Okay.
I just hear,
And
this
that's
is a
something
question.
that I need to collate from the other districts.
Okay.
I heard that at Oak Lawn High School, if you get one pour, you're not going to be renewed.
Well, and that
Maybe
We're
they
not
heard it
doing
too.
that. But we're not doing that. We're not even doing anything close to that.
correct. That's
And
actually that
if
came
I know that, they should know it.
that came up at our SSC meeting. One unsatisfactory component makes the entire domain unsatisfactory and the whole evaluation unsatisfactory. We did not go to that extreme. It takes two domains to be unsatisfactory overall. So that is something completely different. So I will, again, I have my thoughts. I don't know what the actuality is from different models. I know some districts modified the framework. Our committee from the get-go,
Me sending you pictures. I'm sorry.
our district evaluation committee from the beginning said we're going to implement this because it's a research-based tool as is, and we're not going to modify the framework. Our job is to interpret how does this look in District 228.
Mm-hmm.
Because once you modify research, it's no longer valid. Now you're implementing your bias into whatever it is you change. Does that make sense? So the districts, there are some districts out there that said if you don't get excellent in 1B, let's just say as an example, you can't be excellent in that domain. Well, you're already saying that this piece is more valuable than anything else in that domain. That's not what the intent of the tool was.
Right, and I think we talked about this before. There's those 4 pieces, and they have to do the components in all 4 of the pieces.
No. The teacher is responsible for domains 1 and 4, the planning and preparation and the professional responsibilities. The bulk of that lays on the teacher in terms of creating the lesson plans, which is most of Domain 1, and Domain 4 are artifacts, like, for example, continuing your education, providing some transcripts, going to workshops, providing your certificate of hours, things of that nature. Domains 2 and 3, the major responsibility falls on the observer. It's based on the scripted notes. Hi.
I'll catch the tail end of this meeting.
Sure. Can I have your name?
Dale Thompson.
Thank you. So the bulk of the work for domains 2 and 3 falls on the observer scripting during the actual observation. So it's almost a 50-50 partnership in the evaluation process.
Right.
And isn't that what the evaluation software is geared towards, is the observer more so than the teacher?
There is more work to do on the observer end in terms of coding the script to the framework, aligning everything in there, aligning the artifacts. The teacher really just has to go in and fill out the questionnaire, which they do anyway through a Word document, and upload their artifacts. That's it.
Well, it sounds like this could be a solution.
A good step in the right direction for the efficiency piece of it.
Right.
But just
Okay.
with anything that's any new process, any new, thinking back to my first year as a teacher, I was here on the weekends, I was here till 11 o'clock at night every night because you're trying to figure out the job. This is no different. It's a new tool, it's a new process, which is why we did Danielson first, to get teachers comfortable with that before we implemented the growth model. There was a faction of the union when we rolled this out. They said, why don't we just wait and do Danielson and the student growth model in the same year? And I said, we're not doing that. I'm not going to do that to you because this is hard enough.
And the student growth model, those are the assessments, the type
Correct.
2 and type 3. And those, they don't have a choice because the state is requiring those to be done. Is that
The
the case?
state requires a type 1 or type 2 that's aligned to district improvement goals. Okay, now we also decided not to roll out type 2s for everyone, every course. We narrowed it down to where are we going to capture the most teachers. That's where we have our type 2 list. Every teacher absolutely has to have a type 3.
Okay, so type 3 is required.
And then you have to have a type 1 or type 2. And if you don't have one of those, you are going to do 2 type 3s.
Okay.
So everyone has 2 assessments, whether it's a 2 and a 3 or 2 3s. That's what they have. And that's required by law.
And I know it's repetition, but just, it's so much for us to absorb that are not dealing with it every
Absolutely.
day. And I know I keep asking
No, and
the
that's
same
good.
thing, but I'm just trying to.
It took
grasp
us
it,
180 days to wrap our heads around this process to be able to articulate it clearly to the staff. So I don't expect people to grasp it right away. It's
And
the
now,
constant
maybe a tough
conversation.
question. Is
Not at all.
Danielson the only thing the state offers as an evaluation system?
We could have chosen any framework. It had to be based on a rubric. So we initially talked about, should we create our own? That would have been totally insurmountable to do. We looked at Marzano's A Framework for Teaching, and we felt there was even more components than what Danielson had. The reason the committee chose Danielson is because it most closely aligned to what we had, just repackaged a little bit. Remember I showed you in that one document
Right.
the alignment between the pieces. This spoke to what teachers were already doing in the classroom. It celebrated what they were doing. It just looks different than the old model.
Okay, well, yeah.
You also have to remember too, in the old model, the observer told the teacher what they were. In this model, it encourages the conversation, it encourages the teacher to get involved in their own evaluation. And that's the big shift too. That's why it feels like more work, is because the teacher is expected to be involved in the process. And to have the conversations and to clarify, I don't understand what you mean by this in your lesson plan. Help me understand so that we can further delve into what their
And is
performance
all
is.
the testing that they have to do with the students required by the state?
That's part of the student growth model.
And that is required?
Yes.
So there's no getting around that?
No.
And that's because where our scores are at as a district?
No, that's the entire state of Illinois. Like we
That's-
talked about,
okay.
we are going first
With the growth.
because we're a priority district.
Right.
Every other school that isn't in our boat has to do it next year. And they're forming their joint committees now. They're trying to negotiate. They actually have to start finishing up their negotiations. So they are where we were last year.
Okay. So, yeah, if they're having conversations with other districts that aren't implementing that part of it yet.
That could
They
be
don't
also
even
why
know
are we
what's
doing it
up.
like them? Well, because they don't have
Because
the
they're
growth
not
model
doing it.
yet. Or whatever it is that.
But they'll be doing it because
Next year.
They have to. It's
They
the
have
law.
to.
And all the student testing is required of that.
Mm-hmm. You have to have a pre and a post test to show growth. You have to understand where the kids were and where the kids ended up. And then that percentage of kids that showed growth is what determines your rating overall.
And is that a requirement for every single quarter, every semester, just one time during the process of their review?
So each school district does it differently. What we also talked about, should we do the data piece in the teacher's quote unquote off year? So the year they're not doing Danielson, should they work on their data? And we actually polled the staff, and the majority of the staff wanted to do the data at the same time as Danielson. And if you think about it, it kind of makes sense, because if I'm designing my assessments around standards and I'm having conversations with my observer about how I'm creating this assessment and I'm monitoring my students' growth, all of that is what's expected of you in Danielson. So not only do they get a performance rating on the growth side, all that work that they're doing, they're getting that credit in the Danielson side. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So that's why they wanted to keep the two together. So for us, the assessment window and the type 3 we talked about varies from teacher to teacher. It could be 3 weeks, it could be 5 months. The teacher chooses.
They choose.
They
that,
choose.
Yes.
The type 2 is the whole first semester. They have to give the pre, the mid, and the post within the first semester, and then their data is done.
But they are required to do a type 3.
Yes.
And not everyone is required to do a type 2. In the type 3, do they have that option to do the full semester?
3 weeks to 5 months,
3 weeks to
however
5
they want to
months.
set it up.
In the type 3 they do.
Yes.
Okay.
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 And didn't some of this come out, this came out of state, but didn't it also come down federally in lieu of No Child Left Behind? I mean, nationally, there's been an outcry of teachers go on tenure and then they can do what they
Sure.
want and they have to practically murder somebody in order to lose their job.
Sure.
There's no control over quality of
Their
work, quite frankly.
accountability.
Yes. So
Part of it stemmed from, so before the elementary secondary, Everyone Succeeds Act, the new one that replaced
that what it's
NCLB.
called now?
Yeah, under NCLB, do you remember the Race to the Top?
Mm-hmm.
That whole process, the state was filing a Race to the Top grant. Well, part of the parameters for winning or earning that grant is you had to come up with a teacher evaluation system. That's
and
where
we were-
all
that's RTF.
that's how this whole process started. In order for them to get federal funding, they had to tell the federal government, we have this evaluation system in place and here's what it looks like to hold teachers accountable. That's where it started.
And now it's just spun into all of this, still mandated by the state though.
Yes.
In some ways, it's kind of a shift from No Child Left Behind. A lot of the burden was on the kids and I guess in a lot of ways on the school board to say, well, why aren't the kids doing better? Well, they're not going to do better if the teachers are teaching the way they taught 25 years ago. Methods have changed, kids have changed, topics have changed.
Personally, I'm not saying it's a bad system. I mean, whether I would say that or not, it doesn't matter. What I'm saying is, from the reading that I've done, there seems to be that disconnect from when I sat on that stage when I first got on board and Bill Kendall got up and said, hey, we don't want to fire you. We're not looking to do that. You know, do you remember that?
Absolutely.
Okay, so from that speech, why that hasn't sunk into their heads until what I've been reading since the 19th, there's a huge disconnect there.
Part of it goes
Now
back
they're
to what.
living it.
Well, not only that, part of that goes back to what Evelyn's saying. It's the unfortunately it's the label. It's if we didn't have the RIF group, which came out of Senate Bill 7, that says based on a teacher's performance, you have to put them in these groupings, and then based upon where they fall in that group is where you start cutting.
And cuts used to always be based on seniority.
And not on the teacher performance. Well, since that came
That's
into
a change.
play, that's the game changer. Now people are concerned about their label. Right or wrong, and
their
I
job,
understand
quite
it.
frankly.
Absolutely, we understand that. But we're trying to, again, we're about improving teaching and learning. If we want to improve academics, we have to improve teaching and learning. And yes, maybe a teacher was called excellent under the old model, That's not necessarily holding true today, but we want to show them, if that's your goal, let's talk about how you get there.
What you're saying, it's good stuff, Corey, but I don't think, and I'll just say it, I don't think the top administration has the trust of our employees for them to believe what you just said to me, because I believe what you're saying, but I don't think that they have the trust to believe it. That's where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
So I think it's more of working on that than it is Danielson itself.
A communication gap, I think, is the issue. Huge part of the issue.
Sure.
I don't understand. What do you mean by the trust? Well, how they think you're
Majority of the
They're fudging with the
faculty off of
evaluation?
those surveys, I would have to say that there's no trust to the top administration, Evelyn. That's what I'm getting.
for evaluating teachers? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not talking about any evaluation model right now. What I'm talking about is what Corey just said to us. I totally get it. It makes a lot of sense. But the way maybe it was communicated to them, or I don't know, but it's a trust issue with them, with the administration, with this process. And I don't think you have their trust for what I'm reading. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I don't think you have their trust.
Yeah, and I don't know what you're actually speaking to. I mean, all I
I'm
can
speaking to, they don't trust what you just said. They don't trust that that model is exactly going to work out to what you just said. That, I think Evelyn just meant they're worried about their jobs. That's a very sensitive issue. And if they don't have trust in the upper administration, we got problems.
And I guess I'm struggling with, okay, if we were truly out to get teachers and we were using the evaluation tool to do that, we would have whacked 20 teachers this year. We could have done that, but that's not us.
Is there any way that you could get that message across to them and have them truly believe you that the administration is sincere, that they didn't want to get rid of 20 teachers or whatever you said? I don't know. Because that's what the issue is. It's a trust issue right now. They don't trust us, or the top administration.
And I don't know what more, and again, I'm going to speak to the evaluation process. I don't know what more we can do as a district evaluation committee, because we're providing training. We're getting, when we first rolled this out, and I'll give you that figure too, I spent a day at each building. Come down and talk to me. Come down and ask me questions. What are you struggling with? I'll give you the numbers.
Okay.
If I had 10 at each building, that was a lot. The trainings, you'll see the number of staff that participated in trainings. So if they're not in front of the deck listening to the message, then they're going to make up whatever they want to make up. I can't control that piece. I can only control the message that we put out and the training that we put out, the surveys, and saying, you know what, based upon your survey, this is what we changed. Yeah. Just like we did with that.
And did you say you just recently put out a survey?
We just talked about it because we're working on the evaluation software right now. Our next meeting, we're going to start crafting the survey to get out to the staff.
So it's not gone out yet?
No.
All right, I'll be interested to know when that goes out and what you're hearing back.
Sure. And if you want to see the results from the survey that we did with Danielson, I'd be more than happy to share that with you.
How many people did that go out to?
We had 100 and... No, and I forget the number that we had up for evaluation this year. But we had about a 60% return rate, which is pretty high.
Huge.
I don't even see anything spinning.
It is. Yeah, it's right there.
It is. Okay.
We had 104 responses the first year, and we asked them, all the way the year's experience to homeschool to teacher versus school service personnel, because they have different frameworks. What workshops did you attend? So you can see the percentage there, and these were all the questions that we asked. All the way down to, we asked some open-ended questions. If you could change one thing about the process, what would it be? And we gleaned. Now you have to kind of sift through emotion versus things that we can actually, of substance that we can make some change. So we have that feedback. Should there be specific deadlines for turning in artifacts? We didn't have those at first, but we felt this was something because people were waiting till the last minute. Minimum number of artifacts. This was based upon this, we made a change for next year's group.
So was that number reduced then?
No, we actually had more the next year.
No, the amount of artifacts.
Oh, yes.
That they have to turn in.
Yes, originally we didn't have a number, but we had the extreme from 1 artifact, which doesn't necessarily help the teacher, to 9 binders of artifacts, which was way overboard.
From one teacher?
From one teacher. So we said, you know what, 6 is the max. You sift through and give us your best 6 or less to represent this component. This particular year, so this was 2015. We had
So if they give less,
136.
is that a reflection on their?
No, it's about the quality, not the quantity. People thought the more I give you, that means I'm excellent. No. Let's have a conversation about what the artifact is. Let's align that to the framework and talk about whether this is proficient, excellent, or less.
And the evaluator is the one that's deciding that if the artifacts are.
Based on the framework, how it fits into the framework, which the teachers have a copy of everything that they're being held accountable to.
Corey, you just said, if we were out to get people, we could have gotten 20 plus people. What does that mean? Does that mean that right now they're not measuring up according to
No.
Danielson? What does that mean?
It's going back to your comment about the trust factor.
But how could you have gotten rid of 20 people if they're not measuring, if they're measuring up to what you're asking them to measure to? How are you going to get rid of 20 people?
We would base it on performance, and we base it on section. Now, again, 20, I'm making that number up.
Okay.
To be extreme, to make a point.
Okay.
Could we cut 20 teachers this year? No. We're pretty tight in terms of class size. I don't know how much lower we can go with class size unless we start cutting programs.
Well, I know as a board member, I would expect if a teacher's not measuring up to what our standards are, they should be let go, or it should be.
Or, let's hang on.
Because if they
not
don't-
necessarily let go. It depends on the severity of the performance. If it's an unsatisfactory and they're harming kids,
Well, if we're not-
absolutely.
if we're not teaching our kids, that's harming our kids.
But
so-
we want to give the teacher an opportunity
Absolutely.
to remediate.
Absolutely.
Just like we had a teacher this year that's on.
But I just got confused by that statement.
Yeah, I'm making an extreme point. Some districts, when they started this evaluation process, went into it as a way to get rid of teachers.
Okay.
We never had that thought when we went into this process. We looked as an opportunity to improve teaching and learning. Bottom line, that's it. That's our goal. If we really wanted to use this as a hammer to get rid of teachers, we could do it. It'd be difficult, but that's not what we went into this for. The tool is meant to help teachers move to the right,
And I
move
think
towards
some of the
excellence.
frustration the teachers are feeling too is based on what building they're in and what students, the level that the students are at that they have to work with. So it's hard for them to meet some of these.
But that's
I
where
would
they're
debate that because there's only 35 surveys from Hillcrest, which is the lowest performing school.
Yeah,
But I think
they've
what
given up.
Kim is also saying too, if I have special ed students or I have English language learners or I have the extended kids, there's no way I could be excellent. I'm not an AP teacher, an honors teacher. I'm kind of taking that
Yeah,
from
they're
your
kind of
comment.
they're getting kids coming in as freshmen that can't even do 6th grade math, let alone freshman year
Algebra.
math, and they're spending all their time getting them, where they need to be, but have this burden of meeting these standards that they feel they're going to be evaluated on based on what the overall level of an evaluation is for teaching freshman math when they're really dealing with maybe 6th
Okay,
grade
so that's
math
part of the
students.
misconception. It's two totally different thought process. The evaluation framework does not, what's the word I'm looking for? It does not discriminate against the student. This is a tool that can be used whether you're a kindergarten teacher or a professor in college. Mike McCosey, who sits on our committee, he's the FLC coordinator at Bremen, uses this tool as an adjunct professor. So it's used across every grade level. Doesn't matter if you're a self-contained special ed teacher, you work with ELL students, or you have the most at-risk kids. It's about, do you understand where your students are, and do you teach them and help them grow? That's the Danielson piece. The student growth piece, they control the type 3. They create the assessment. They create their own growth target. So it takes into consideration, yeah, your students may have scored a 2% on the pretest. But if they went to a 15% by the post-test, did they show growth?
Yes.
Absolutely. And that's taken into consideration. So this misconception that, oh, because I have the icky kids, there's no way I can be excellent, is not true.
Okay.
And that's part of our hurdle that we're trying to get
Probably
over.
a communication gap, a huge
That's
one,
what I said.
Yeah.
I think it isn't the fact that we got to debate whether the Danielson model. I think it's talking with them, and I know you say you have, and obviously you got documented meetings and all that, but it's just not working that way.
But they also have to
Maybe we need to
internalize for
strategize.
themselves what the framework really means. You know, if I hear teachers all the time, well, I'm a teacher that lectures. I can never be excellent. That is not true. There's a time and a place for lecture. There are other things that you could do in your classroom to engage students that could move you to excellent. It's up to you to decide, do you want to do that or not? If you don't want to do that, be proficient. And there's nothing wrong with being proficient. If our entire staff was solidly proficient on every single component, we would be in a good spot. Do I want teachers to be excellent? Yes. Are they always going to be excellent? No, because the students change, their courses change, techniques change, and they have to stay current with those things. So part of it is wrestling with themselves in terms of, where am I truly on the framework? Where do my strengths lie, and where can I push myself to be excellent? They do not have to be excellent in all 22 components.
Because at the end of the day, what does a proficient versus an excellent do for them?
It puts them in a higher grouping in the event that we're going to riff teachers.
That's all it does.
That's all it means.
You
That's
know,
all it means.
I don't know, you guys have seen the surveys, but I don't even see the complaint with getting the label, as you put it before. It's
no, I'm
more
not
about the
hearing that.
process and what it's
work.
taking them, okay?
There's not really a
But
complaint of I should have
there's too
been
many,
excellent, but I
Evelyn,
was
for us to
proficient.
ignore that.
Right, and you would
It's
even
more about
see-
all this, that, you know, the complaining about all the work they have to do and feeling like it's taking away from.
Teaching.
But again,
teaching
it's
content.
new. We're only in this group has only been, this is the second time they've been through Danielson. This is the first time they're going through the growth model. Yes, it is new. It's overwhelming. You've even said it, just trying to wrap
Yeah.
your head around, where am I in this process and what am I
don't even
supposed to be
have
doing
do
next?
it, and I'm overwhelmed.
What percentage of the staff is being evaluated this year? Ballpark.
It's not quite
Quarter,
50%.
half?
We have next year's group, there's more teachers up for evaluation next year than this year. I don't know the percentage. It's not quite 50%. 40
So,
maybe.
How many of these people, I'm just quoting human nature, how many of these people who aren't even going through it, fear of the unknown. Oh my God, look at what you have to do. I can't do it.
And I
And
think,
people don't, I
Yeah.
am a teacher at heart. I spent 22 years in the classroom, and nobody hates change more than teachers.
Yeah.
Let me be the first to tell you that.
I think what I said with the 20% negativity, I think I wouldn't say that I've heard more than 20% of the people that I've talked to talk about that labeling, okay, as the main problem. It's all the other stuff.
So
Which, again, we're
maybe
trying to
when
work
you
to
get the
improve.
surveys out,
Yep.
and we talk about the software, and maybe just opening it up for discussion will help the process be better, maybe looking at some, you know, I don't know where your room is for change on there and what you can and can't do, but so to me, it sounds like, Larry, we need to get the message back that they need to be talking to their reps as well.
Yes. We can't change if we don't hear from them in the field. And I will reiterate, any time that issues have come through the JFA reps to the District Evaluation Committee, we've addressed them. Whether it caused a change in the system, or I went back to a specific observer and said, look, you're not following procedure, this is what we need to be doing, we fix the system. If we don't hear from them in the field, I can't change it through the District Evaluation Committee.
Do you get a lot of complaints that the teachers are feeling like their observers are being biased or unfair, or, you know?
The first year we rolled it out, again, it's that growing pains through it, on trying to understand the process, making sure that we're on the same page that first year. This year, it's dwindled. We had some issues more with the student growth model because there was a lack of communication between the observer and the teacher on some things. But it's few and far between compared to what it was the first year. But every meeting we start off with, what are you hearing in the field? Let me know. But it's just like anything else. If I don't hear it, I don't know if it's one incident or it's 100 incidents.
And do you hear requests for software to make the process easier?
I've heard it from the administrators, for sure.
Okay.
And the teachers, again, it's more about trying to just reduce the paperwork. They've never formally said a software, but reducing the paperwork, which we've made strides towards doing.
And in your opinion, have you viewed any of these softwares? What do you think?
Yeah, so when we get down to it, I'll tell you that. All right, so moving on, the GPA calculation was a question that Ms. Stearns had in the last meeting about when we calculate class rank for graduation purposes. So I spoke with the assistant principals for student services and got the history behind it. Basically, class rank for graduation purposes is calculated after the 7th semester. So it's the fall semester after their senior year. Because GPA is based on a semester grade, that's why they do it at that time. Prior to Power School, there was no, you had to calculate it by hand, in essence. So the amount of time it took to calculate class rank was not possible right before graduation. Some of the other concerns, though, is, and that's why I have a calendar up. So let's take this year, for example. Graduation is here, the 17th and 18th. Seniors' last day is here on the 12th. So really does not give us a lot of time to, one, calculate the class rank, print the graduation programs, make sure that we have the diplomas for students to walk on the 17th. And in addition to that, the valedictorian and salutatorian have to prepare their speeches, practice, get feedback multiple times before they do that. So that's the history behind it.
What do you think is the chance of the top 10 ranking actually changing from the fall semester to the end of the school year? I mean, could someone be a 2 and actually become 1 in...
Or could be a 2 and end up out of the top 10.
Or
it depends on their
yeah.
performance in the fourth quarter.
Could their performance in the fourth quarter, I mean, unless they completely tanked, I mean, if they're striving for, they're at 3 and they want to be 1, could that one last semester, I mean, if they aced everything, could that possibly even put them to the number 1 position?
Depends on the courses too and how they're weighted.
And depends on who's 1 and 2 and their performance.
Right.
And believe me, the kids are wise to that. I tell you,
They
my
are.
own personal kid story with that.
They are. So that's the history behind it. I don't know, where Ms. Stearns wanted to proceed with that, but I wanted to, I told you I'd come back with the history on that situation, so there you have it. Okay. All right, let's move on to textbook adoption. So what I have around the room are the books up for adoption this year, and I wanted to start with giving you a little bit of history and show you kind of the game plan moving forward with the department. So back in fiscal year 01, this is back even when I was a supervisor, the State Board of Education actually had a textbook grant. So for these fiscal years, and even before that, I think Dr. Glenn, even years before that, we used to purchase our textbooks through the state. So we didn't pay anything for textbooks. And we usually divvied up, one year might be a math series, next year might be social studies, might be English. That grant dried up in 08. The district also supplemented in 07-08 with some funding. So back in 07, we were spending just under $500,000 on textbooks, which is a lot of money. During the early phases of when I became assistant superintendent, we were trying to balance the budget. We had at that point, I think with a $12 million deficit, somewhere around, I think it was 07,
Right.
08. So we were trying to do what we can with what we had, and really talk to the supervisors and change the way we approach curriculum writing. In the past, we would write curriculum based on what the textbook said. We don't do that anymore. We write curriculum based off the state standards and draft the curriculum and then go find the resources. We're not teaching directly out of the book, with some exceptions. Foreign language, you're going to follow a textbook series. Mathematics, you're going to follow a textbook series. But other than that, it's about what's most important to teach, then let's go supplement with the resources. So there was a period of time where we did not really buy a lot of textbooks, new textbooks. We worked with what we had. And tried to supplement. The internet was starting to become more and more prevalent at that time, trying to use the internet resources, trying to use our own internal resources. And then slowly around 12, 13, somewhere in this area, we started having the conversation about potentially going e-books, electronic books, moving away from the hard copies, which brings us where we are today. So that's kind of the history behind it. This fiscal year, we spent just under $245,000 on textbooks. What I've been working with the supervisors on doing is, again, putting together a game plan. So each supervisor has a tab. Let me see if I can blow that up for you. Because I want to know, we don't want to get hit in one year with every department needing textbooks. That would just be a huge financial burden. So this is English Language Arts. Here are all the major courses. Here's when the textbook that's currently in use was adopted. So in this particular one, Cultural Perspectives, which is our senior course, the major textbook is from 1994. A lot of what they're trying to do is move towards more novel-based, which is some of the books that you see here today. So their new anthology, they're looking in 2018-19 to get a new anthology for that course. So what I've asked them to do is map out when do you think a new series will come into play so that I can start planning out with Mr. O'Malley, like I said, so we don't get hit with this large financial burden. I'm going to show you social studies because they've been at the forefront of moving towards ebook. In 2010, this book already had an ebook series. So for every hard copy that we purchased, we got X number of ebooks with it. And ebooks work on a 6-year license. So every 6 years we have to renew those licenses. The advantage of going through an ebook is anytime there's an update, it's automatically given to us. Anytime that new supplemental material comes out, it's automatically given to us and keeps us more current. Some of the complaints out there, you know, if you go to our American history book, Bill Clinton is still the president.
Oh, and that's a legitimate complaint.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But again, we knew a few years back that we were moving in this direction, so our thought process is should we be spending $200,000 on hard copy books when we know in 2 years we're going to go to an ebook?
Right.
You know, and so it's trying to balance all of those things. So just to give you an idea, that's our game plan moving forward. So let me talk about what's up for adoption this year. I'm going to start with social studies because I'm going to show you the e-version. So this is the world history text, and what they're coming out with now for resources is absolutely amazing for kids. This, we are going to an ebook series because the freshmen next year will have their iPads, so they will all have a copy of the ebook. And basically, they would log on to their website, and here's their text. It gives them an introduction.
Chapter 1.
Also has an
The
audio
Rise
version.
of Civilization. Prehistory.
And
to
it
circa
reads it to 'em?
Reads it to them?
2300 BC.
Okay, I'm going to jump into place and
I
time.
would have got better grades if they would
Right?
have had that back then.
It puts this particular time period into perspective. So these are all, I can click on this map and it's going to take me into a navigator and I can click on, you know, different parts to get some perspective of where we are in time. And then, whoops, let's jump right into a lesson. Now, I can't seem to find the button for this, but Gary Andrick over at Oak Forest was showing us at our adoption meeting. Somewhere in here, the text can actually be translated into Arabic and into Spanish,
Wow.
which is huge for our ELL population.
Wow.
The other thing that's really cool is take a look right here at this passage. I can actually level it down for my English language learner. So here they're actually giving you some background information about some vocabulary terms. Kids that are just below grade level, it changes the text. And then the students that are on grade level, again, text complexity goes up.
Do students have the ability to do that?
I believe the student and the teacher. I think the teacher can assign, and the student will have this ability to adjust. It also gives them the opportunity to highlight. I can also listen to my text audially.
I like that.
Lesson 1. Early humans.
Students that are visually impaired, I can increase the font a little bit, or I can decrease the font. If I click on vocabulary, here are the vocabulary words that I need to know. Another really cool feature, reading strategy. I can have this graphic organizer up while I'm reading, and I can take notes.
The new way to annotate.
Yep. Okay. Sorry, I'm still learning my way around. There's videos over here. Also, there
Lesson
are,
one.
oops,
Early humans.
go away. It will ask me some questions. I can watch a little video and answer these questions. The teacher then can get the responses from the students and see where the students are not understanding the information prior to coming into the lesson the next day and make some adjustments along the way. There's even questions embedded within the reading. All I have to do is respond here and hit save. So a lot more interactivity with the textbooks, a lot more resources. There's actually some DBQs in here, so there's some primary source documents. Let's see if I can find one here. Games are embedded with in the program, so here's one. Here's a primary source already embedded in the software. Now I can take this and apply it to what I'm reading in the textbook.
Can they go to having that read to them?
No. This particular one is not set up. There are some that are interactive,
Okay.
so not every piece is interactive.
Hey, Corey.
Yeah.
Question on, okay, so say that's downloaded onto their iPad,
Yes.
right, as their e-textbook.
Yep.
How many more can go? I know it's a space issue, but can they keep downloading?
Well, actually, let me stop you there, because this particular one is actually web-based. So they wouldn't download the book, they go to the website.
That's what I was going to ask you. Yeah.
Where novels would be one that would be downloaded.
Okay.
And then once they're done reading, they have to get rid of it to free up some
So
space.
that's cool. So that's not going to take up
No.
the space, or okay.
Yeah, sorry, that's a web-based program. So that's world history, and that's the e-resource that goes with it. Thé Branché is a level 2 French book, and you'll have an opportunity to kind of flip through. So the World Language Department has been working backwards. For a long time, their curriculum, especially in the upper levels, they ended up having mixed classes. You would see 3s and 4s together, or 4s and 5s, or 4-5 AP. We never had a pure 4 or a pure AP class. So they made a concerted effort to say, you know what, our goal is for 4th years to get to AP. If that's our goal, let's work backwards and revise our curriculum so that the kids are prepared to take that class. We don't have these mixed courses anymore because we weren't running enough kids to make that class work. So this series is directly aligned to AP French. And what AP French requires is for students to study more of the culture, understand the history. It's moving away from when you and I learned foreign language, it was a lot of grammar, sentence structure, moving away from that and concentrating more on speaking and listening and writing and not so heavy on the grammar. So that's the Thé Branché. Let's jump to BPA. Kim, next to you, the hardcover book. So that is, it's been a while since they had a new BPA textbook. So again, bringing it up to most current practices in marketing and finance. And right now, we haven't made a decision in terms of if we're going to go ebook or hard copy because these students don't have iPads yet.
Right.
So that might be one where we may do some class sets and some ebooks just to prepare for that following year. Okay.
These are juniors that take this, or you can
Juniors
start
and
as a
seniors.
soft- Juniors
No,
and
juniors
seniors.
and seniors. Okay, let me go through the novels really quick. This one, A Long Walk to Water, is for English Skills Extended. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about the book. So, English Skills Extended, this is the course where the students are on Read 180. It's that computer-based program. These students are reading below grade level. So the Read 180 program allows them to develop skills at their Lexile level, and then the goal is to continue to raise that Lexile level. So the first month of school is when they're doing their Scholastic Reading Inventory. It's their testing to figure out what level they are. So while some students are doing the testing, the other students are starting to read the book, and then they'll go do their testing and come and read the book. So this is a semi-biographical novel. It's a historical fiction. One of the themes that they study in English Skills Extended is about survival. And these students are the lost boys of Africa, okay, and understanding influence of Americans in that country. So that is that book. Introduction to English, I Am Malala. You know, she was a Nobel Prize recipient this year. This is for Introduction to English. I'm going to tell you some of the highlights. In Introduction to English, one of their units is on nonfiction. That's part of the new Common Core state standards, is that we're introducing students to more nonfiction. They actually do not have a lot of female authors in the curriculum, so this is an opportunity to introduce a female author. More importantly, it's an author of their own age. She is a 15-year-old, at the time that she wrote this, she was a 15-year-old Pakistani who was shot by the Taliban. because she was going to school. And so one of the things the teachers shared with us, one of the students was reading it in her SSR, so their silent sustained reading period, and they had a discussion about terrorism and the misconception that terrorism only happens to a country and not within their own population. And so that was kind of eye-opening for our kids, is having that understanding of terrorism also happened in one's own country. Out of my mind. This one, they're looking to replace The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Night, which is about an autistic child. This one, similar, the student has a disability. The student cannot communicate, but is extremely intelligent. And the student actually enters a Scholastic Bowl challenge, and I believe wins the Scholastic Bowl. So it's just an opportunity to understand students with disabilities. This would be in the English skills course. Studies in Contemporary Lit. This is a senior course, so this is one of our, this is our honors course. Students that don't take the AP literature would take studies in English. Persepolis, if you have a chance to flip through it, is actually a graphic novel, which is one of the units that they study is graphic novels. So students do not have a lot of experience reading graphic novels. This particular story is a coming of age, and so a lot of the students can relate to the author. The author was actually coming of age during the Iran Revolution, so talking about her own struggles of maturing in that situation and reflecting back on her childhood. So that is Persepolis. Cultural Perspectives is The Help. It was made into a major motion picture.
Good book.
Yes. So again, understanding cultural issues during the 1960s, which is what the course is all about, is understanding different cultures. It is historical fiction and understanding practices during that time period. And that is The Help. And Michael Crichton is for speculative literature. This is another senior elective course. Any of you watch The Walking Dead? The TV series, it's like uber popular.
Yeah.
It's based upon kind of that sci-fi. Literally, they go back in time and trying to what it's like to survive the world 600 years ago. So very high interest read in speculative literature. So those are our novels that are up for adoption. Right now, these would all be hard copies at this point. Because one thing that's different, we're still exploring the whole ebook in terms of novels.
Okay.
A little different than a textbook. A textbook you purchase for 6 years and then you renew your license. Novel, if you have a Kindle, you have to buy the book every time you want. So we're trying to figure out that licensing. Once we purchase an ebook, how long do we get to keep it? Do we have to renew it? We are in the process, though, of researching. There's a lot of free novels out there, especially of the classics, that we could download and students could check out. The last book next to Kim is the United States History. It's a large paperweight. This is for AP American History. The College Board redesigned the course and the exam. So their old Barron's book no longer applies. This book is most aligned to the changes for AP American History. Students, this is like a workbook. The students would actually have this copy and get to write it and keep it. So it's a consumable. Okay. So those are all the books that are up for adoption. Do you guys have any questions?
I love the e-books. I love the the ability to have a textbook updated.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you say, Corey, so we have the 6-year lease on them, right?
Yes.
And then during those 6 years, they're updated, right?
Yes. Whatever changes are
Annually
made,
or-
we would get the
Oh, okay.
updates. Yes.
Oh.
What's the cost of an ebook compared to a hard copy?
You would think they would be a little bit cheaper, but they're not.
Because of the licensing and the updates?
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yes. Well, and the textbook companies still have to make their money too. I can give you an idea.
But when an update comes out, is that included, or is there a fee for any?
No, that's
updates?
included.
It is included.
Until that 6 years is up. So for the 6 years, that book is $75 a student.
Which one?
That ebook and everything that goes with
I'm
it.
going to take it home.
Well, no, we wouldn't get. We would actually. What's nice now, the vendors are saying, okay, so for X number of ebooks you buy, we're going to give you a class set. So our goal is to get a class set for each building in case we have some students that want a hard copy at home. Sometimes parents still like that tactile.
Well, very
Book.
true.
Yes.
My son had an issue a couple weeks ago. There was no page 25 on the book online. I mean, he's like, I'm telling you the truth, and we're all looking, and I'm like,
You're
I
right.
emailed the teacher, I'm like, there is no page 25. Can you tell me why? He goes, no, he can do it in class tomorrow.
That's
it just
funny.
wasn't there.
Yeah.
It was and I don't know if it was our computer or what. It just wasn't there. It was
Yeah.
the strangest thing.
Interesting.
It was an ebook.
Yeah. Well, it was the book online, so it wasn't an ebook. You could go to the website.
Yeah,
Maybe
many
it
of
was a
our
glitch
older
with the website.
it
I
could
don't
be.
know.
Many of the older books, what they've done is basically cut the spine off and scan them, so they're static PDFs. So maybe the page didn't get copied,
Perhaps,
which
yeah.
could be.
Okay.
Not that we did it, but the textbook company did it.
Right.
So the process for this is these. You'll read it at the committee notes next week that we reviewed these books. They're going to be sitting at the Ed Center. They have to sit open for 30 days for the public. So you'll make that announcement in the committee notes. Parents, whoever wants to come in and look at the textbooks, then they'll be put up next month for full adoption. Okay, so if at any point in time you want to come back and peruse or have questions,
I have a question on.
Yep.
Can I snap pictures of them? Would that be
Absolutely.
all right. Okay.
Absolutely. Next thing up is summer academy budgets. Dale, did you want a copy? Look at it.
I'll turn it back to you.
Okay.
Page through.
So it's that time of the year to get our summer academy ready. First up is our functional. It's our extended school year program. These are for our Excel students. So we have 39 students that, again, with the functional students, they have more of an opportunity for regression, meaning that they lose their skill sets if they're not actively engaged all the time. So this summer program is to continue their functional skill development so they don't regress and have to start all over. It is a 6-week program. A couple of things that are new, and I noticed that didn't get changed on here. Speech pathologists will still be working with the students. Instead of a social worker, that's going to be a counselor. I apologize for that. The reason being is the counselor from South Suburban College. So these students, their goal is to have a transition plan when they leave us and go to South Suburban. So the counselor that actually would be working with them at South Sub is going to work with them over the summer, which is awesome. And then the psychologist is new this year. The psychologist is going to help with that transition planning. Okay. Other than that, everything else is the same. The IDEA grant will reimburse us for the majority of it. The reason the $8,000 is there is Mr. O'Malley submits reimbursement to the state for transportation for special ed. So we'll get that money back. Questions about extended school year? 6 weeks, 8 to 1 every day. Okay. Next one, and this is pretty standard for each school. You'll see the dollar figure. For Bremen, the first thing up is the Summer Academy. 16 days, 8 to 1. We're teaching reading, math, and science. Bremen projects a little high. They think they're going to get 120. My guess is they'll end up with half of that this year. What I always tell them is overplan, and then we can always bring the budget down. So instead of 6, they most likely will have 3 staff members. So to run their program is.
What do you do with the staff on that then?
What we do is they don't sign. Yes, they don't sign a contract. Well, they'll fill out a contract. They may not necessarily be hired, and if they don't get a summer academy job, then they have an opportunity for summer school.
Okay.
So we want to make sure that their name's in the ring, but they may not necessarily get summer academy. Okay. The next thing for Bremen is AP camp. 4 days, 8 to 1. We're projecting 25 students there. So the total cost to run the Bremen programs is $17,600 and change.
Now there's some fees that the parents pay, right? Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
Students, it's $30 for the AP camp, $75 for summer academy, $50 for the extended school year. And that's the same across the district.
This is for both.
Right. Yep. Tinley Park is projecting 60 students for summer academy. Again, all the fees, all the dollar figures is the same. It's just the number of students drives the overall cost of the program. Their AP camp, they're projecting 40 students. So the cost of Tinley Park's summer programs is just over $12,000. Hillcrest is projecting, now one thing we didn't do last year, which kind of hurt us on the AP camp side, is Hillcrest runs a summer geometry program to try to move the students into AP Calc by the time that they're a junior. That's one thing that we've been committed to, so trying to get those students progressing faster. What we What we realized, though, the students that were taking the summer geometry couldn't take the AP summer camp because they were running at the same time. So we're doing what Oak Forest is doing. Summer Academy will run during the day. AP camp will run at night from 2 to 7. The reason we do that at Oak Forest is because the AP teachers are teaching summer school during the day. So for the first week, they'll go from school 8 to 7 with some breaks, and we'll feed them in between. But that way they can participate in both. Because we had poor turnout in the AP camp last year.
What about the kids that like to do the economics going into their senior year? Is that still offered?
That's in
over
summer
the
school.
summer?
Yep,
That's
summer
in
school is
summer
completely
school.
separate. Yeah, this is just Summer Academy for remediation.
Okay.
So 40 kids for Hillcrest?
Yes.
See, now that baffles me. Why only 40? I mean, what's our criteria to get them in a summer camp? I mean,
Are you talking the AP camp or the Summer Academy?
I'm talking about summer academy.
Summer Academy, it's students that qualify for extended English, extended math, or pre-algebra, or English skills
And
extended,
they qualify how from taking
the MAP placement test. Yep, and so we tell them you qualify for this program, and part of it is
I just would have thought that number maybe would have been a little bit higher.
yeah. Well, you know, it's interesting. We're actually down. We're projected down about 50 students compared to where we were last year.
Okay.
Part of that is as the feeder schools are getting better at preparing students, the need for Summer Academy, we're going to start seeing that shift, that we no longer have to focus on the remediation. We were actually talking, you know, is it time to make some change and focus more on, you know, students that are just deficient in reading? Let's just focus on reading, or let's just focus on math, or let's focus on science. It might be time to start re-looking at what we're doing.
Because at the end of Summer Academy, they could take a test and then they could actually test out of the extended class.
Correct.
That's the goal,
That's the whole
right?
goal.
Yes.
Exactly. Exactly.
But if they don't, or they're still struggling, that they have
They
the
s-
option to remain in the
they stay in the
extended class so that they have the help.
Yes,
And
exactly.
it is, could other students then, could it be open to students that just want to work on a skill?
Stay
and,
fresh.
You know?
Yeah, you know what? We decided probably 3 or 4 years ago to not have those students in there because our goal is to help remediate the deficiency. So when you bring in students of higher levels, now you're trying to differentiate too far. Does that make sense? So we said, you know what? We've got something for the top kids. It's AP boot camp.
Okay.
Yeah, I love Summer Academy.
I do too.
I really do. It's a good program.
Yes. So Hillcrest has a Summer Academy, English, Math, Science. They have a separate academy for kids to take geometry. The goal is to get those students into Algebra 2 as a freshman so that they can be in pre-calc sophomore year and calculus their junior year, really trying to build that calc program. We have projected 40 students there and then 20 students in the AP camp. Their funding will be taken out of Title I. And then lastly, Oak Forest, 20 students projected for Summer Academy. Dr. Mladenovich is still beating down doors to try to get that number up a little bit. 40 students projected for AP camp.
So obviously it's not mandatory.
It is not mandatory.
So could you ever foresee a situation where we would say, hey, listen, you did this on your map and no, you need to be in our Summer Academy? Is that something that we could do?
We
or?
tried to persuade. Arbor Park tried to for a while. Students didn't get their diploma unless they came to Summer Academy. You know, you trying not to do that. We don't want to.
But you guys tie in a half a credit to this.
We do.
Which is that's nice.
Yes, which
You know,
has come into
could
play
be
for many
something.
students. By the time they're a senior, they need that half credit to
Yeah.
graduate. Oh, you participated in Summer Academy. We can
Yeah.
swap that out. So, again, we do our best to persuade and tell the parents this is really beneficial, but we can't mandate it. No. So the very last page, you'll see the overall figure. Total cost of the district is about $47,000 once all the grants are applied.
It's money well spent.
Yes, absolutely. Questions about that? Before we get into the last page. Okay. Evaluation software. So here's where we are. Again, starting more with the administrators, the fact that this process is paper-some heavy. How do we make it more efficient? There was a group that asked us to start exploring some software. So in January, I had an administrative team, and I had 2 representatives from each building. Every position was represented, from athletic director to director of special ed. We had 2 people from each building. Prior to that meeting, I picked up some examples from the III conference. There was a couple of vendors there. I invited them out. Some people had given me some suggestions of softwares. I did a pre-screening. There were probably 3 softwares that I wouldn't even bring forward because they were not user-friendly at all.
Is this compatible with DecisionEd? And will we be able to insert that data into DecisionEd?
Yes, because you pull it out as a CSV file, so as an Excel file. Anything that can get pulled out as an Excel file can get uploaded in DecisionEd. So right now, all of the data that I have for the last 3 years on teacher evaluation is in an Excel spreadsheet. We'll be able to take all that data and upload so we don't lose any of that and be able to do some diagnostics with it. So yes. So the 4 vendors that we looked at were Standards for Success out of Indiana. We looked at Bloomboard, a couple of school districts. District 218 uses Bloomboard, and I forget where they're out of. Talent Ed, which is a nationwide company, and then Evaluize out of Joliet. The administrators ruled out Bloomboard and Standards for Success. Bloomboard was running $150 per teacher, which and they were not really interested in the evaluation side of it. They were more interested in the professional development piece, which wouldn't really serve us at this point. That's not going to fit our needs. Standards for Success was better on the analytical side, but not necessarily user-friendly for administrators and teachers. So they ruled out those 2. It came down to Talent Ed and Evaluize. Those 2 then I brought to the district evaluation committee. They had an opportunity to review both. At this point, they had some follow-up questions, which I called both contacts last week. The deck actually met this afternoon. I gave them the responses from both committees. Where they are right now is they would like to get a demo account to get into both systems and actually play around with it and see which one would be of most benefit. These 2 products were the top 2 from the administrators. Either one would help us streamline this process. Bottom line, what it will do for us, it will allow the observers to schedule everything through the software, and it automatically will, once the teacher accepts it, it goes into their Google Calendar, so everybody knows when a conference is or when an observation is. It's already scheduled.
How are they getting it now? Just mail in a box?
Email.
Or email?
Email. Every time the observer, so I'll take Talent Ed for example, every time the observer logs in to their email, it shoots them an email. Here's what's on your plate for this week. Here's what's coming up. Here's what signatures are required. Here are some things that are overdue. You need to get on these things. Anytime that an action is required of the teacher, it automatically sends an email to that teacher saying, hey, this is coming up for you to do, or you need to go in and sign this document, what have you. What it will allow is to get rid of the paperwork. Right now, we have an evaluation tool in Word. Their scripting tool is in Excel. They have to use Mastery Manager for their data. We're looking for something that can be a one-stop shop for this whole process. One product does one a little bit better than the other, but again, I don't think we would go wrong with either one. The observers would script right in the software, so no more Excel. They put all their notes right in there. They code it to the framework. It automatically links, so you don't have to retype, which is part of the efficiency piece. It automatically syncs, and now when I look at component 1B, here's all my evidence, whether the teacher submitted some artifacts or I uploaded some things, or here's all my scripted notes, let's make a rating call. Bing, bang, boom. One product will actually talk to Mastery Manager and pull the data in. And I remember from the last board meeting, Debbie mentioned that her daughter's school uses a particular software that actually pulls from Mastery Manager. Talent Ed is the one that would do that, would pull the data right out into the student growth model and do the calculation for us. So in terms of making it more efficient, either one would serve us very well.
Okay.
How much?
What's the cost?
Both are priced a little bit different. Evaluize is on a per teacher basis. So one of the things we're also looking at is, and I know this is one of the goals of Mr. Goggins, is get all the evaluations electronic. The software could handle a coaching survey or coaching evaluation, secretarial evaluation, maintenance evaluation through this software. So one is a per teacher basis. It's $25 a teacher. So if we figure 400 some staff members, you're talking about $10,000 for that software. Talent Ed is based on a per student basis, and the rough quote right now is about $18,000. Training
So
is
one
about
is by student and one is by teacher.
Yeah, every company does it different.
So not all the teachers are going to be it might not be their year for their evaluation, right? So not all the teachers will be using it at once, correct?
Correct. However, one of the things we want to consider, so Talent Ed has a whole artifact portfolio, and it's unique to that software. I haven't seen it in any others, where the teacher in their off year could start uploading things, which would be a huge advantage. Getting things ready to go and aligned to the framework, and now you just share it during your evaluation cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So there's something they can be making use of in their off year to eliminate some of the stress in the year of being evaluated.
Correct. The other nice thing about that tool is they own that portfolio. So if they ever left the district, it goes with them.
Oh, and that's Talent Ed?
That's Talent Ed. So
And
pluses
you're-
and minuses
What are you
to both.
suggesting? Which one?
I am listening to the feedback from the administrators and the teachers.
It's not complete yet.
No, it's not
Okay.
complete.
Okay.
So I'm meeting with the administrative team on Friday to give them this feedback. There were some things that we did not have in our administrative training, like the whole student growth model never came up in the administrative webinar, but came up in the teacher webinar. So that's a huge piece. If you don't have to jump from Talent Ed into Master Manager and back again, it's all in one place. I think that also would serve us very well. Like I said, either product is going to make our work much more efficient, regardless of which one we choose. It automatically will produce the RIF lists also for seniority purposes. So right now, Dan takes the information that my secretary collates with the ratings, and anytime that you're transferring data, you have an opportunity for error. This would all be calculated once the final rating is delivered. It's all automated. That would go right to Dan Goggins. He would produce the RIF list, and done. So I think, again, that will make everybody's lives easier.
I've heard from some people in the schools, and they're looking forward to some type of software.
Yes,
Anyway.
we need it.
Yeah.
Definitely for the administrators. The teachers aren't 100% on board. And so those are some things we need to work through. Are we going to mandate this? Are we going to phase it in? What I told the deck today, absolutely, we are doing something next year. The administrators have to do something electronic next year. We
And
can't-
I
they're
don't think
stretched
they
to
have
the
an
hilt.
issue with that at all, the administrators.
Oh, gosh, no.
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 Okay.
Okay?
All right.
So I will bring you an update. My goal is next committee meeting, I want to have a decision to bring to you with the final product. I want to
So
get
they'll
it.
have time to get a login so
Yep.
they can play around with both. And
Yep, I've already contacted
and
Talent
your
Ed.
group is comprised of teachers and administrators.
I have
so
two
they're
separate
all-
groups. So the deck was reviewing, that's the teacher committee, and then I pulled two people from each building, making sure every position was represented from the administrator side.
All right.
Yep, and these were their top two. So my goal, like I said, is to have board approval next month. If we can, let's just say if Talent Ed is the vendor that we go with, if you guys are willing to work with us, we could sign a contract on paper to get the process moving on the back end. If that's something we can talk about, because we need to get all the rubrics loaded. My goal is I want to train some of the teachers before they leave for the summer. I mean, that's another concern, is we don't want to come back the first day of school and now we have something new to learn.
Something else on their plate.
Exactly. So I want to try to start that training in May, sprinkle it into before they leave, and disperse for the summer, a little bit over the summer, right before
But
they
then,
come back.
if that was the decision and they had that and they had login access, is that something that they could just look at themselves over the summer and familiarize themselves with the
Yeah, and
program?
depending upon the vendor, like I know Talent Ed does webinars, so that we could post a webinar. You can.
So they could watch it.
We can even create a GCN, if you will. Go through your GCN training, watch your videos, answer some questions, show your proficiency. Boom, you're done.
Oh,
If you can upload a document to an email, you can do this.
yeah.
It's more work on the administrator side, learning the intricacies and the framework part of it, less on the teacher side.
I like what I hear on it so far.
Yeah.
I think it'll be good for us. Any other?
Okay, I just had a couple. I wanted to ask you about I got an email about doing a dual credit survey. Would you know anything about that?
No.
Where did you get that at?
It was on a district email. I think it just came today. I don't know if I got a copy of it.
I did not see that.
Okay, I will.
If you could send it to me and
Let me send it to you.
Let me
I'm
know
just
who it's
curious
from.
as to what it's all about. Are they looking to change that process?
Can
or
we get it
something?
too? Can you get it?
I think I don't know if we all got it or not.
If you don't mind sending it to me, and I'd be curious to know who it came from. Is it from South Suburban?
IASB.
And it's in our
A subcommittee of the P20 Council is seeking input on upcoming proposed changes to dual credit programs. Please consider taking a few moments to share your perspective on the issue in the survey below. From Roger Eddy. You did not? Did you get this?
I don't know. I looked
Oh,
this
let's just
afternoon,
walk-
but
Let's see what time did it come.
depends on the time.
At 2:08, I got it today. Well, I'll forward it to you.
But we already have.
We do, but wondering
And
if
it's-
they're looking for. There's so many changes coming down from.
So I didn't have time to go
South
through
Suburban.
the survey of what
Okay.
it is, but I thought maybe if we all could look at it, is it something we should be doing, you know?
We already have dual credit.
No, the survey. If the survey is something we should be
Oh.
looking at as to why are they, I'm wondering what kind of changes, if you knew what the changes were that they wanted to make, but you don't.
No, all I know is that, I mean, there are some significant changes coming down in terms of dual credit that our teachers, in order for the dual credit to occur, our teachers have to have a master's in whatever the field of study is. For example, let's take statistics. The only way our kids can get credit is if the math teacher has a master's in that area. Yes.
Because you couldn't teach at the college level without a
Right.
master's. I can understand where that's coming
Right.
from.
Right.
Okay.
So it
maybe
will
that's
have a
why.
significant impact on our dual credit.
Oh.
Absolutely. So
Okay.
it'd be interesting to see what they're looking for.
Yeah, and I
and what
didn't
they're
even have
asking.
time to open the survey to even see what the questions were, if they're completely basic or what. I didn't know if anyone else got it and what you all thought about it. So maybe we can talk about it at the next
Why would the
meeting.
state, I'm trying to figure out the source of this.
And they're asking for board members.
But why
to
would
do
the
it.
state board? Because they have nothing to do with college or
Right.
junior college.
Well, that's why I brought it up. So if it's something, you know, if you want to look at it, and then maybe we can email each other in a week or two. If it's something that we as board members should be filling out or looking at, if it's going to impact our students somehow, then you
Definitely.
want to know about it. And then just the new thing we got from the law firm on the new special education rules, is that anything you can speak to, or should we be talking to Lisa? Anything to be concerned with?
I would talk with Lisa.
Talk with Lisa about
Mhm.
it, okay. It looks like they're adding dyslexia as a special ed. Do we have a lot of that in our district?
You know what she could speak to?
She could, okay.
Yeah, the
I'll ask
cases.
her about it.
Mhm.
Alrighty, that's all I have.
All right. Anybody else? Okay.
Okay.
Seven.
Meeting is adjourned at 8:55.